Good morning.
And good morning.
Welcome to Bluebird Quilt Studio Facebook Live. We're going to be talking about a whole bouquet of ideas that are applicable to applique.
Yes.
So if you would like to join us, we'd love to share some applique techniques with you. We're also going to tell you about some fun things coming up at Bluebird Quilt Studio this month. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you enjoy this little visit with us. So to start off with, we have lots of new fabric. So it's in full bloom around here, and this new fabric line from RB Studios just came in yesterday. And oh my goodness.
Aren't they beautiful?
It is lovely. So this is called Melrose Place. And this particular line has a free pattern. So kind of a fun one too. And there are other downloadable patterns that are available for this. So if you need some ideas and inspiration for that particular line of fabric, then we'll be happy to help you out with it. But Melrose Place just came in yesterday. Don't even have the stickers on the bolt yet, but we'd love to help you pick a bouquet of those flowers. We also are celebrating a little bit Christmas in July.
I was just going to say that a little birdie told me that it was Christmas in July.
So why don't you tell us about some of the things that are happening with Christmas in July?
Well, first of all, we have lots of new Christmas fabric. We have it on bolt, we have fat quarters, we have all kinds of beautiful fabrics. These are some cutesy ones with polka dots and sparkles. Lots of little Christmas sparkles. We got a new black and white and red line.
Oh, you know what? I'm going to go grab that because it's too cute to pass up.
And we're going to have Christmas in July, which means any Christmas fabric that you purchase during the month of July, you're going to get 15% off. So Merry Christmas to all of you. Hopefully that will get you going on your Christmas projects.
So check this out. How cute is that? It's adorable.
And then it's got the cute little border that goes along with it.
And there's some fun flannel like argyle prints that kind of go with it.
I think there's maybe buffalo plaid too.
Yeah.
In the red and black.
Even some sweater look-alike fabric. So you could make an ugly sweater Christmas project.
Oh, yes, you could.
There you go.
Yes, you could.
You could use some of these applique techniques that we're going to talk about
There
too. So,
and I think it'd be an adorable back of the couch kind of quilt that's Christmassy without being red and green and gold. Red and green and gold.
yes.
Like everything else, it gives you a little bit different look, a little bit maybe more. The print isn't modern, but the colors.
Yes.
Colors are
Yes.
kind of modern to me anyway.
Yes, exactly. So this is a fun one. Did you tell them about the 15% off in July?
I did tell them about 15% off of any Christmas fabrics for the entire month of July.
I know.
Yay.
That's great.
Come
So
celebrate Christmas with us.
that's right. And that sale is also available online for Christmas fabrics.
Great.
So let's talk applique. Yay, we get to talk quilting.
Fun.
Awesome.
Looks like we've got lots of different techniques here.
Marilyn and I raided our stash of our quilt closet. We raided our closet to bring you some different techniques and ideas. And different applique techniques come with different skill sets. They come with different tools. They come with different patience levels.
Right.
So you have to pick an applique method that suits your personal style and how much time you have available and just how you like to quilt.
Well, some people love handwork. They love to sit in the evening with something on their lap and do a little bit of calming, quiet stitching. Other people want nothing to do with handwork. And if you can't do it on a machine, they're not interested.
That's right.
So the nice thing is there's techniques for both types of people.
That's right. And finding the right one is going to be kind of our focus. We're going to be doing a series of short applique technique type videos. So stay tuned to our Facebook Live channel and like and subscribe to us if you would like to join us in an exploration of different applique techniques over the next coming months. I really encourage you to break out some supplies with a low-key threat level and try to do some of these things and give yourself permission to be less than perfect on these techniques so that you can grow and give them an honest chance. Because
right. If you can come up with a design, let's say a couple of flowers with stems and leaves, and you do a different technique for each flower, different technique for the stems, different technique for the leaves. You can try each technique in just a little part, end up with a cute little wall hanging or bag front when you're finished with it. But it's not overwhelming to have a whole project.
Right.
Especially if it turns out not to be the one that is your thing.
Absolutely. And we have a number of different applique projects that have patterns available that you could use one or many of these techniques. You could make it an applique sampler kind of a project for yourself.
Right.
So here's one called Full Bloom. That is a project that we have available. And I love this one. Oh my goodness. This is called A Gathering. This is by Barbara Persings. And another of her quilts is this particular quilt. It's called Bliss. And that was an absolute blast to do. So I've done both the Quail, A Gathering pattern, and this one. Super fun. And you could use a lot of these techniques we're going to talk about. So let's dive into the quilter's closet here. Which one would you like to talk about first, Marilyn?
Well, let's see. Why don't we start with hand applique?
Okay, awesome.
Okay. One way of doing hand applique is by using wool, felted wool that doesn't ravel. You don't have to turn the edges under. You don't have to use any fusible, and you can use pretty yarns to stitch it down with either a basic stitch like the blanket stitch, or you can get fancy and put lots of embellishments on it. So hand applique, whether it's wool or cotton. If you're using cotton, you probably want to turn the edges under. Then there's a couple techniques for that.
Or use fusible to stabilize the edges.
Right,
okay.
Right, absolutely, if you wanted to use fusible. So hand applique can be very fun.
And this style is really helpful for giving you a little bit more latitude, because wool work can be incredibly precise, or it can be very whimsical.
And primitive.
Yes. So this is a good starting project for hand applique.
And you want your stitches to show. That's part of the charm of wool, as opposed to if you're using cotton quilting fabrics, you're trying to hide your stitches so that nobody can see how that fabric is magically attached.
Right, absolutely. So along the idea of something that has a little bit more texture like wool, an idea that you might not have thought about as an applique technique is felting. Okay, so we have these felting feet for our handy quilter machines, where you can take a piece of wool that's cut to a particular shape and actually poke the fibers of the wool, or honestly acrylic felt works really well too, down into the background fabric or even the quilt, and attach the fibers. These are attached. They aren't going to come up. And so by embedding the fibers, you felt the pieces together.
Right. So is the green part felted also, or is that couch?
So this is a couching, but in a way it has so much dimension. It's got such a strong line. You might think of it almost like an applique technique.
Well, you could take a large flower and couch along the edge of it as a way to attach that flower to the quilt.
Absolutely.
And it would give it lots of dimension.
Right.
And texture.
So there's some texture techniques. Another texture technique that starts to dip into free motion work is, you know, taking even some silk flowers that might have had their heyday somewhere else.
We probably all have some of those in the top of the closet.
And attaching them with thread. And the nice thing about doing that with machine, it's free motion, usually using an embroidery foot. The nice thing about that is, again, it doesn't have to be perfect.
Right.
It's fine. It's fine. And you fold up those little buds and you stitch down the corners, and you've got some fun little blooms too. So there's different ways to manipulate the fabrics you're stitching down.
Right.
And by using some of these that already have a little dimension, you're kind of giving yourself a little grace.
Right. And
So-
a head start, kind of.
Yeah. Another grace technique, I would say, is something like this, where these are just the same kind of snowflakes that you might have made when you were a child, only I put fusible web on the back of the snowflake, folded it just the same way you would fold a paper snowflake, and then attached it. But when I attached it, I attached them loosely. And some of that loose type of attachment can be done with just a regular 1/4 inch foot after the top has been stabilized to the quilt sandwich. So you could do that either before or after you you quilted, or
Right.
during
Or
your quilting
Actually,
project.
you can
And you
stitch
can
it down
see-
as the quilting.
Right. That's exactly what I did. Okay? So
another way of using fusible web and attaching it, this quilt right here is, this is one block, and this one is done with fusible web and then stitched down with a machine blanket stitch. It would be another really good one to quilt as you stitched it down. Instead of stitching it ahead of time, you could stitch right 1/8 of an inch in
Right.
on each one of the petals as you're quilting.
right.
And that way
And
you
you
don't
used-
have double duty.
You used a little buttonhole stitch that almost
Right.
disappears in there. So that's a really nice way to do it. On the quilt behind us, I used matching thread to stitch down each one of these appliques prior to quilting the quilt. So that's another option.
Right.
This one right here did cut the fusible applique out and then stitched and quilted at the same time. But you can see
Cute.
it gives it a little bit of a different look. It's a different look.
Well, it gives you some dimension
Right.
when you're quilting beside it. Around the outside edges, it kind of makes that applique piece pop.
Right. So should we talk about reverse applique?
Absolutely. We
Okay.
both have some samples of reverse applique.
Go ahead. Either way.
I was just going to say I have winter and
Oh,
you have
yeah.
fall.
There we go.
So the reverse applique is a way of putting 2 layers of fabric on, stitching around whatever design you want, and then cutting out the top layer inside of the stitching. So for the snowflakes, you traced the snowflake, put the white fabric first, the blue fabric over the top, trace the snowflake design onto the blue fabric, and then stitched it. I used some sparkly thread and went around it several times, and then just took some little scissors and cut the blue away from the top.
And if you're sneaky, you save that top layer and you put it in an alternate block right next to it.
If you can cut it out carefully, absolutely.
Yeah.
You get a negative and a positive.
There you go. So this one has some applique techniques that are, basically it was a giant pattern that I laid out on my long arm, making the quilt sandwich with a layer of orange and a layer of black on top of it, stitched over the lines and then trimmed away, just as Marilyn was explaining, trimmed away the black layer of fabric on the top.
So this was done all one piece.
It's actually 2 pieces of top fabric.
Right, but I meant it was The whole pattern was
yes,
one.
it was a
It
whole
wasn't
class
sewn
quilt.
together. Yes, perfect. That's
And also we've appliqued some rickrack around the corner, which I love to applique rickrack. It's
that's
too
pretty cute.
fun.
Pretty
So some other stitching techniques and ways of attaching fabric.
This one?
Yeah.
So this applique butterfly is stitched down with decorative stitches. We all have those decorative stitches on our sewing machines, and most people don't use them very much. So this was kind of a fun little thing to play with some fancy thread, but then also some different cut types of decorative stitches.
I love this. This is a new crumb applique technique with fusible, and you're using those little bits of fabric that
absolutely.
You can't get rid of.
Yeah, yes, that's true.
That you can't get rid of, that multiply on you. And in a good quilter studio, they multiply. So
they certainly do.
Do you want to talk about this one? This was kind of a fun one too.
This is Happy Village. Karen Eckmeyer is the designer and the author of the book Happy Village. And this one is done completely differently. All of the little pieces are cut out. They are laid on with a tiny little drop of fabric glue, and then a whole piece is completely covered with a thin netting like bridal tulle, and you can use different colors that give you different looks. And then using a free motion, you quilt around each piece. So each piece of fabric, like each one of these little windows, it's not stitched down, it's trapped between the netting.
Applique.
That's right, trapped between the fusible and the backing. It's pretty fun.
I've seen some fun versions of this that are called confetti applique. Have you seen that?
Yes.
Where you kind of put little scraplets,
right?
That thread that accumulates and all those little half square triangles or little.
We could do a class on the Happy Village if we had some interest. We can get some of her books, and I'd be happy to teach class on this technique. You don't have to make this kind of a village. We've had Christmas villages. We've had Halloween. Remember Barbara Preck's Halloween village? So, and also the Italian one on the side of the hill. This is a little bit, it's definitely tropical, yes.
Yes. Maryland's a tropical girl.
Yeah.
So, of course, there's another version of applique that's done on a machine embroidery system. So that's also a different way to applique. So lots of different ways, and you can kind of paint applique too. I like doing that too.
Oh,
so
that's fun.
Anyway, so those are some ideas of a plethora of applique techniques that we hope that you enjoy, and we'll be doing little snippets of tutorials over the coming weeks that are related to these techniques if you'd like to learn more. We also will be offering some classes, as Marilyn mentioned, that will be in-depth in our studio for these techniques. So,
and tell us about the schoolhouse that's coming up.
Oh, yes, a sneak peek. So, you're never too old to learn, right?
Absolutely.
So, we're going to open the doors to a schoolhouse, but it's going to be online this time. We're going to try it online.
Some of our some of our customers that have known us for a long time.
There we go.
Remember our schoolhouses that we used to do every spring and every fall. And so it'll be a little bit like that, but not in person. Is that right?
Yes. Okay. So lots of little techniques, probably some make and takes that you could pick up a little kit for. So stay tuned. That'll be the last week in July. Back to school is going to be coming up. We'll probably do that like second week in September. Okay. So the back to school. We also have a little quilters picnic that we're going to host.
That sounds interesting.
Yes.
Food?
Yeah. So that will be the last week in July. So stay tuned. We've got a lot of fun things coming up. Thank you for joining us this morning. And we look forward to seeing you in our shop and try some of these applique techniques. I think you'll have fun.
Absolutely. And give us a call if you have questions.
That's right. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.